Captain Jack stood on the bridge of the GUS Tenacity with his arms crossed, looking out at the stars. His jaw was tight, and his green eyes showed his anger. The ship around him was falling apart. Lights blinked on and off. Strange noises came from the walls. The air smelled like burning metal. "Captain, we have another problem in the engine room," said Rax, his blue-skinned first officer. "Cooling system 3 is down again." Jack sighed. "Of course it is. What about systems 1 and 2? System 1 is working at 30%. System 2 stopped working last week." This was life on the Tenacity, the worst ship in the Galactic Union's fleet. No one wanted to serve here. The ship was old, broken, and given only the simplest jobs. Most captains would feel ashamed to command such a vessel, but Jack had no choice. This was his punishment for speaking out against a Union admiral 5 years ago. "Tell Davis to fix what he can," Jack said. Davis was their engineer, an orange-tentacled alien who tried his best but couldn't keep up with all the problems. Jack walked around the bridge, watching his crew work. They were all different species from across the galaxy. Rax was a Bludon with excellent memory. Davis had 6 tentacles that could hold tools. Nav Officer Pell had 4 eyes that could see in the dark. They were all good at their jobs, but the ship made everything harder. "Captain, we're getting a message from Union Command," said Tula, the communications officer whose skin changed colors with her mood. Right now she was pale yellow, confused. "Put it on screen," Jack ordered. The large screen at the front of the bridge flickered to life. The stern face of Admiral Vos appeared, his silver skin reflecting the light. "Captain Jack," the Admiral said without a greeting, "your ship is being assigned new crew members." Jack frowned. "Sir, we don't have room for." "This is not a request, Captain. The Union has recently signed an agreement with Earth. As part of this agreement, we are integrating humans into our fleet." Jack had heard about humans. They were newcomers to space travel, only discovering faster-than-light technology 50 years ago. Most species in the Union had been traveling the stars for thousands of years. "Humans, sir." Jack couldn't hide his surprise. "What position?" "Engineering division. 5 of them." Jack laughed without humor. "You're sending primitive engineers to the worst ship in the fleet. What did they do to deserve that punishment?" Admiral Vos didn't smile. "The humans volunteered, Captain. They specifically requested assignment to ships that need improvement. The Tenacity doesn't need improvement. It needs to be scrapped and replaced." "That's not happening, Captain. The Union doesn't have resources to replace ships right now. That's why we're trying new approaches." The Admiral looked down at something off-screen. "The human team will arrive tomorrow at 800 hours. Make them welcome." "That's an order." The screen went black before Jack could argue. "Humans," Rax said quietly. "I've never worked with them before." "No one has," Jack replied. "They're new, inexperienced, and now they're our problem." The next morning, Jack stood in the docking bay with Rax and Davis. The small transport ship outside connected to their airlock with a metallic clang. The door opened, and 5 humans walked in, each carrying large bags over their shoulders. The first human stepped forward. He was older than the others, with gray hair and wrinkles around his eyes. He had a strong build and stood straight, reminding Jack of military personnel. "Captain Jack, I'm Tom Miller, head of the engineering team." The human held out his hand. Jack stared at it for a moment before remembering this was a human greeting custom. He shook Tom's hand briefly. "Welcome to the GUS Tenacity," Jack said without enthusiasm. "This is my first officer, Rax, and our chief engineer, Davis." Tom nodded to them both. "These are my team members." He pointed to each human in turn. "Mike, Lisa, Ben, and Anna. We're here to help get your ship into better shape." Davis made a sound that translated as doubtful laughter. "No offense, humans, but this ship has been falling apart for 20 years. Union engineers gave up on it long ago." Tom smiled. "We're not Union engineers. We're human engineers. There's a difference." "What's in the bags?" Rax asked, pointing to their heavy luggage. Tools, said the female human named Lisa. We brought our own. Jack raised an eyebrow. The ship has standard tools in all engineering sections. Tom shrugged. We prefer our own. Trust me, Captain, you'll understand soon enough. I'll show you to your quarters, Jack said, not wanting to argue on their first day. Then Davis can take you on a tour of the engineering decks. As they walked through the corridors, the humans looked at everything with interest. They didn't seem bothered by the flickering lights or the strange noises. Instead, they whispered to each other and made notes on small devices. Your ship has character, Tom said, as they passed a panel that was sparking. That's one word for it, Jack replied. Most people call it the discard. Even Union Command doesn't expect much from us. We transport basic supplies to outer colonies. Sometimes we patrol empty sectors. Nothing important. Every ship is important, Tom said. And every ship can be fixed. Jack stopped walking and turned to face the human. Listen, I appreciate your optimism, but you don't understand what you're dealing with. This ship is beyond repair. The best we can do is keep it running well enough to do our simple jobs until it finally falls apart completely. Tom didn't seem bothered by Jack's harsh words. Captain, with all due respect, humans have a saying. There's no such thing as a hopeless case, just people who've given up hope. Jack stared at the human, not sure if he should be angry or impressed by his boldness. Before he could decide, the ship's alarm started blaring. Captain, to the bridge. Rax's voice came through the communication system. We'll continue this later, Jack said to Tom. Davis will show you around engineering. Try not to break anything. As Jack hurried away, he heard Tom say to his team, All right, folks, let's see what we're working with. Jack had a feeling that things on the Tenacity were about to change. He just wasn't sure if it would be for better or worse. Davis led the 5 humans through the engineering section of the Tenacity. The orange tentacled alien moved quickly, pointing out systems with a bored voice. This is Cooling System 1, working at 30%. This is Cooling System 2, not working at all. This is Cooling System 3, broken since yesterday. He waved a tentacle at each machine without stopping. Tom and his team followed closely, their eyes wide as they looked at everything. They didn't seem disappointed by the broken machines. Instead, they looked excited. Slow down, please, Tom said to Davis. We need to understand what we're seeing. Davis stopped and crossed 2 tentacles across his chest. There's not much to understand. Everything is broken or breaking. We fix what we can, but there aren't enough parts. Tom nodded and turned to his team. Mike, check the cooling systems. Lisa, look at the power distribution. Ben, examine the computer controls. Anna, with me on the engines. The humans split up, each pulling strange tools from their bags. Davis watched with all 3 of his eyes as Mike opened a panel on Cooling System 2 and stuck his head inside. That system is dead, Davis said. 3 engineers from Union Central couldn't fix it last year. Mike didn't reply. He was too busy examining the inside of the machine. After a few minutes, he pulled his head out and looked at Davis. Do you have any copper wire? And maybe some cleaning solution? Davis blinked slowly. Yes, but... Great. I'll also need a power regulator. Even an old one will do. Before Davis could argue, Lisa called from across the room. This power grid is a mess. Who designed this? The best engineers in the galaxy, Davis said, feeling defensive. Lisa laughed. Well, they overcomplicated everything. Half these circuits aren't even necessary. Davis moved his tentacles in protest. Each system is carefully designed for maximum efficiency. Maybe in theory, Lisa said, but in practice, it's like using a hammer to kill a fly. Meanwhile, Anna and Tom had opened the main engine access panel. They were both covered in black oil as they examined the parts. Classic problem, Tom said, wiping his hands on a cloth. The fuel injectors are clogged, and the combustion chamber has carbon buildup. That's normal for this engine type, Davis explained. We clean it every 6 months according to the manual. Tom shook his head. This needs cleaning every 2 weeks, not 6 months. No wonder it's running at half power. Davis felt his skin turn a darker orange in frustration. These humans knew nothing about Union technology, yet they acted like experts. He was about to say something when Ben called out from the computer station. Hey everyone, look at this. The main computer is running on backup systems because the primary processor is fried. We know, Davis said. We've been waiting for a replacement for 8 months. Ben grinned and pulled a small device from his bag. I can rewire this to work temporarily. It won't be perfect, but it'll be better than the backup. Davis watched in horror as Ben began to take apart the sacred computer system of a Union ship using tools that looked homemade. This was against every rule in the manual. Stop, Davis shouted. You can't just change Union systems without proper authorization. Tom walked over and put a hand on Davis's shoulder. Davis, I understand your concern, but these systems aren't working anyway. What's the harm in trying something new? But the manuals, the protocols. Sometimes you have to work outside the manual, Tom said gently. Humans learned that a long time ago. 3 days later, Captain Jack sat in his office, reading reports from Davis. The engineer's messages were a mix of horror and amazement. The humans had broken at least 15 Union protocols, but Cooling System 2 was now working at 60%. That system had been dead for years. Jack's door chimed. Enter, he said. Tom walked in, his clothes stained with various fluids. Captain, got a minute? Sit down, Jack said, gesturing to a chair. Davis tells me you've been very active. Tom smiled. We've made some progress, but we need your permission for a bigger change. What kind of change? We want to modify the engines to increase power by 30%. Jack leaned forward. That's impossible. Those engines are running at maximum capacity. According to Union standards, yes, but we found ways to push them further. By breaking more protocols, Jack asked. Tom shrugged. By being creative. Look, Captain, Union ships are built with safety margins. Big ones. Humans learn to work closer to the edge. Because you didn't know any better, Jack said. Maybe, Tom admitted. Or maybe because we had to. Earth doesn't have the resources your Union has. We had to make do with less. Jack was about to refuse when the ship's alarm sounded again. Rax's voice came through the communication system. Captain to the bridge. Emergency. Jack ran to the bridge with Tom following. When they arrived, Rax was standing at the navigation console. What's happening? Jack demanded. We've received an emergency call from Colony Outpost 47, Rax explained. They're running out of medical supplies. A virus is spreading. They need help immediately. Where's the nearest medical ship? Jack asked. 2 days away at maximum speed, Rax said. We're only 4 hours away, but we can't go fast enough to help. Jack finished the sentence. The Tenacity's engines couldn't maintain high speeds for long periods. Tom stepped forward. Captain, if you let us make those engine modifications right now, we can get there in 3 hours. Jack looked at Tom with doubt. And if the engines explode? They won't, Tom said confidently. Trust us. Jack looked at his bridge crew. Hundreds of colonists needed help. The Tenacity was their only hope. Do it, Jack ordered. But if this ship falls apart, it's on your head. Tom grinned. Yes, sir. He pulled out a small communication device. All hands, it's go time. Operation Hot Rod is approved. As Tom ran back to engineering, Jack turned to Rax. What have I done? Rax's expression was serious. Given hope to Colony Outpost 47. Sir. Or signed our death warrant, Jack muttered. 2 hours later, the Tenacity was moving faster than it had in 20 years. The ship shook and made strange noises, but it flew through space like never before. And for the first time since taking command, Jack felt something he hadn't expected: pride in his ship. The Tenacity arrived at Colony Outpost 47 in record time. The ship's engines glowed hot from the strain that they held. Captain Jack personally led the delivery of medical supplies to the colony. The colonists looked at the old, battered ship with surprise. "You came in the Tenacity?" asked the colony leader, a tall, thin alien named Grell. "We expected a medical ship." "They're still 2 days out," Jack explained. "We were closer." "But the Tenacity can't move that fast," Grell said with confusion. "Everyone knows it's the slowest ship in the fleet." Jack found himself smiling. Not anymore. When Jack returned to the ship, he found Tom and his team already working on the engines, cooling them down and checking for damage. "How bad is it?" Jack asked, expecting the worst. Tom wiped sweat from his forehead. "Not bad at all, Captain. The modifications held beautifully. With a few adjustments, we can make them permanent." Permanent. Davis had joined them, his orange skin pale with worry. "Captain, these modifications go against every safety protocol in the Union manual. They also just saved hundreds of lives," Jack pointed out. Before Davis could argue further, Tula's voice came through the communication system. "Captain to the bridge. Message from Union Command." Jack hurried to the bridge, where Admiral Vaugh's face was already on the main screen. "Captain Jack," the Admiral said, his silver skin reflecting light. "I've received reports that the Tenacity reached Colony Outpost 47 in half the expected time." "How is that possible?" Jack stood tall. "Sir, our new human engineers made some improvements to our engines." "Improvements?" The Admiral's eyes narrowed. "What kind of improvements?" "Technical ones, sir," Jack said, not wanting to admit they had broken protocols. "The important thing is that we delivered the medical supplies. The colony is safe." Admiral Vos was quiet for a moment. "Well, whatever you did, it's caught Command's attention. You have new orders." Jack was surprised. The Tenacity never received important assignments. "There's a diplomatic convoy heading to the Rigel system," the Admiral continued. "It's passing through contested space. The convoy needs an escort, and you're the only ship in position to help." "Sir, the Tenacity isn't a combat vessel," Jack protested. "Neither are the diplomatic ships," the Admiral replied. "Your job is to look official and scare away trouble. If real problems appear, run fast. With your new improvements, that shouldn't be difficult." After the Admiral ended the call, Jack gathered his crew in the meeting room. "This is a big responsibility," he told them. "The Tenacity hasn't had an important mission in years. We're not ready for combat," Rax said, voicing what everyone was thinking. Tom cleared his throat. "Actually, Captain, we might be more ready than you think." Jack raised an eyebrow. "Explain." "While fixing the engines, we found ways to improve other systems," Tom said. "The shields are now 30% stronger. We've also made the weapons more accurate." "You modified the weapons?" Jack was shocked. "Without permission." Lisa spoke up. "We call them battlefield modifications. On Earth, soldiers often improve their equipment based on real combat experience." "This isn't Earth," Davis reminded them. "No," Tom agreed. "But space is space, and combat is combat. Some principles are universal." Jack looked at his crew. Half of them seemed worried, the other half curious. "Show me these modifications," he ordered. 2 days later, the Tenacity met with the diplomatic convoy. 3 large, sleek ships carrying ambassadors from 12 worlds. The convoy captains seemed unimpressed with their escort. "That's the Tenacity," one captain asked over the communication channel. "The ship is legendary for all the wrong reasons." Jack felt his pride hurt, but he kept his voice professional. "We'll keep you safe, Captain. Just stay in formation." For the first day, everything went smoothly as they traveled through space. On the second day, they entered the contested sector, and trouble found them. "Captain," Rax called out, 3 ships approaching fast from behind. They're not responding to hails. Jack felt his heart race. Raiders, battle stations, convoy ships, increased speed. The raiders were small, fast vessels designed for hit-and-run attacks. They quickly surrounded the convoy, firing warning shots. They're targeting the diplomatic ships, Tula reported. Position us between the raiders and the convoy, Jack ordered. Shields at maximum. The Tenacity moved into position as the raiders opened fire. The ship shook as energy blasts hit the shields. Shields holding at 85%. Davis reported with surprise. They should be failing already. Return fire, Jack ordered. Warning shots only. The Tenacity's weapons fired, and to everyone's surprise, the shots hit with perfect accuracy. One raider ship spun away, damaged. How did we hit them? Rax asked, amazed. Our targeting systems were never that good. Tom smiled from his position at the engineering station. We recalibrated the targeting computers and balanced the energy output. Basic improvements. The remaining raiders came around for another attack, this time focusing on the Tenacity. They're targeting our engines, Rax warned. Brace for impact, Jack shouted. The ship shook violently as multiple blasts hit the same spot on their shields. On a normal day, those hits would have destroyed the Tenacity's defenses. Shields at 60% and holding, Davis announced, his voice filled with disbelief. Our turn, Jack said grimly. Target their weapons, full power. The Tenacity fired again. The energy beams that shot out were stronger and brighter than they should have been. 2 raider ships lost weapons systems immediately. How is this possible? Jack asked, turning to Tom. Redundant power systems, Tom explained quickly, and we rerouted excess energy from non-essential systems to weapons. It's not in the manual, but it works. The raiders, clearly not expecting such resistance from an old ship like the Tenacity, turned and fled. The bridge crew sat in stunned silence for a moment before breaking into cheers. Captain, Tula said, the convoy captains are hailing us. Jack nodded, and the main screen showed the face of the lead convoy captain. The alien's expression had changed from dismissal to respect. Captain Jack, he said, that was impressive fighting. The Tenacity has clearly been underestimated. Jack felt a surge of pride. Thank you, Captain. We'll continue escort to the Rigel system. After the call ended, Jack turned to his crew. Well done, everyone. He looked at Tom and the human engineers. Especially you 5. I think we owe you an apology. Your unconventional methods just saved this mission. Tom smiled. That's the human way, Captain. We make do with what we have, and we never give up. For the first time, Jack truly believed that perhaps the Tenacity wasn't such a hopeless case after all. News of the Tenacity's victory over the raiders spread quickly through the Galactic Union. When the ship returned to Central Station after completing its escort mission, a crowd of officers and engineers waited to see the famous vessel. Captain Jack stood proudly on the docking platform as Admiral Vos approached with a team of senior engineers. Captain Jack, the Admiral said, his silver skin gleaming under the station lights. Your mission report has caused quite a stir. I hope in a good way, sir, Jack replied. That remains to be seen. The Admiral gestured to the engineers beside him. This is the Chief Engineering Council. They need to inspect these modifications your humans have made. The head engineer, a tall alien with 6 eyes and metallic blue skin, stepped forward. We need to understand what was done to Union property, Captain. These changes were not approved. Jack felt a flash of worry. Admiral, my crew acted to save lives. First at the colony, then protecting the convoy. And they succeeded, the Admiral acknowledged. But protocols exist for a reason, Captain. No one can simply change ship systems whenever they want. Before Jack could argue further, Tom and his human team joined them on the platform. Admiral Vos, Tom said with a polite nod. We're ready to show your engineers everything we've done." The head engineer looked down at Tom with all 6 eyes. "You modified Union technology without understanding its principles." Tom smiled. "With respect, we understood the principles perfectly. We just approached them differently." "We'll be the judge of that," the engineer replied coldly. For the next 3 days, the Engineering Council examined every change the humans had made to the Tenacity. Jack waited anxiously for their decision, knowing that Tom and his team could face serious consequences for breaking Union protocols. On the 4th day, Jack was called to a meeting with Admiral Vos and the Engineering Council. He arrived to find Tom already there, sitting calmly despite the serious faces around him. "Captain Jack," Admiral Vos began, "the Council has completed its investigation." Jack braced himself for bad news. The head engineer stood and activated a display showing diagrams of the Tenacity systems. "What these humans have done is—" He paused, seeming to struggle with his words. "Remarkable." Jack blinked in surprise. "Sir, the modifications are unconventional, yes," the engineer continued. "They break numerous protocols, but they work. In some cases, they work better than our standard designs." Another engineer pointed to a diagram of the engine. "Look at this cooling system. They've created backups for the backups, using parts from non-essential systems. It's messy, but the redundancy makes it nearly impossible to completely disable." "And their weapons modifications," a third engineer added. "They've created a way to quickly switch power between systems, giving more energy to shields or weapons as needed. It's not elegant, but it's effective." Admiral Vos turned to Jack. "It seems we've underestimated human engineering, Captain. Their approach is different from ours, but valuable." Tom spoke up. "Humans have always had to make do with less. Admiral, we learn to adapt, to see possibilities where others see limitations." The head engineer nodded slowly. "There is wisdom in this approach. The Union has always focused on perfect, standardized systems. But in real combat, adaptability may be more important than perfection." Admiral Vos looked thoughtful. "The question now is what to do with this knowledge." "If I may suggest, Admiral," Tom said, "let us continue our work on the Tenacity. Make it a test ship for human innovation." The Admiral raised an eyebrow. "You want to experiment on a Union vessel. We want to improve it," Tom corrected. "Show what's possible when human creativity meets Union technology." Jack found himself nodding in agreement. "Admiral, in just a few weeks, my ship has gone from the worst in the fleet to saving lives and fighting off raiders. Imagine what could happen with official support." The council members looked at each other, having a silent conversation with their expressions. Finally, the head engineer turned to Admiral Vos. "I recommend we approve this request," he said. "With supervision, of course." Admiral Vos was quiet for a long moment. "Very well," he finally said. "The Tenacity will become our test ship for human innovation." But he pointed a finger at Tom. "You will document everything. We need to understand your methods." Tom grinned. "Yes, sir. Thank you, sir." As they left the meeting, Jack felt a mix of relief and excitement. "That went better than expected," he said to Tom. "Humans have another saying, Captain," Tom replied with a smile. "Results speak louder than words." Over the next month, the Tenacity underwent a transformation. With official approval, Tom's team worked day and night, implementing improvements they had only dreamed of before. Other human engineers joined them, bringing new ideas and skills. The ship's appearance changed too. Parts that once matched were now different colors and shapes. Smooth panels were replaced with reinforced sections. New antennas and sensors stuck out at odd angles. Davis, who had once been the most skeptical of the human methods, now worked alongside them with enthusiasm. "It's not pretty," he admitted to Jack as they observed the changes, "but it works better than anything I've seen." One morning, Jack found Tom in the engine room, covered in grease and smiling widely. "Captain," Tom called out, "come see this." Jack followed Tom to a new control panel covered in buttons and switches that hadn't been there the day before. "What am I looking at?" Jack asked. "The future," Tom said proudly. "We've increased engine efficiency by 50%. The Tenacity can now outrun any ship in the fleet." "Is it safe?" "Safer than before," Tom assured him. "We've added 3 more backup systems and emergency shoot-offs. This ship is nearly impossible to disable now." Jack looked around the engine room. It no longer resembled any Union ship he'd served on. It was uniquely Tenacity, a blend of Union technology and human innovation. "You know," Jack said, "when you first arrived, I thought you would make things worse." Tom laughed. "Most people underestimate humans, Captain. It's worked to our advantage throughout history." "Not anymore," Jack said seriously. "The whole Union is watching us now." "Good," Tom replied. "It's about time they learned what humans can do." As they walked back to the bridge, Jack realized his feelings about the Tenacity had completely changed. Once a punishment, the ship was now a source of pride. The Discard was becoming a legend, not for being the worst ship, but for being the most innovative. And it was all because humans refused to accept that something couldn't be fixed. 6 months had passed since the Tenacity became the official test ship for human innovation. The ship now looked nothing like a standard Union vessel. Its hull was covered with mismatched armor plates. Weapon systems stuck out at odd angles. The engines glowed with unusual colors when at full power. Inside, the changes were even more dramatic. The bridge had new control stations. The engine room hummed with energy. Even the living areas were improved with systems that made life more comfortable for the crew. Captain Jack stood on the bridge, watching his crew work. No longer did they seem tired or defeated. Now they moved with purpose and pride. The ship that was once called the Discard had a new nickname throughout the fleet: the Miracle. "Captain," Rax called from his station, "we're receiving a priority message from Union Command." Jack nodded. "Put it through." Admiral Vos appeared on the main screen. His silver face looked grim. "Captain Jack, we have an emergency situation. A hostile force has entered Union space near Colony Omega. They've already destroyed 2 patrol ships and are heading toward the colony." Jack straightened. "What are our orders, sir?" "All available ships are being called to defend the colony. The Tenacity is the closest vessel." "We'll set course immediately," Jack promised. "Be careful, Captain," the Admiral warned. "These attackers use technology we haven't seen before. Their weapons cut through standard shields easily." As the Admiral's image disappeared, Jack turned to his crew. "Set course for Colony Omega, maximum speed." "Yes, sir." The crew responded together. Tom came onto the bridge as they were preparing to leave. "I heard the news, Captain. This could be trouble." "It will be," Jack agreed. "But we're not a standard ship anymore, are we?" Tom grinned. "Not even close." The Tenacity arrived at Colony Omega to find chaos. 5 Union ships were already there, fighting against 3 large black vessels. The enemy ships were sleek and powerful, moving faster than Union vessels and firing weapons that left glowing green trails in space. "Those are Krell warships," Rax said with fear in his voice. "They're known to attack colonies and take resources." Jack watched as a Union cruiser took a direct hit and spun away, badly damaged. "Status of our systems." "All systems at full power," Davis reported from engineering. "The humans have added some surprises you should know about." "What kind of surprises?" Jack asked. Tom stepped forward. "We've modified the shield harmonics to rapidly change frequency. If their weapons are tuned to cut through standard shields, ours should resist better." "And the weapons?" "We've created what we call a scattershot mode," Tom explained. "Less accurate, but it fires in a pattern that's harder to evade." Jack nodded. "Let's test them out. Move us between the colony and those ships." The Tenacity accelerated toward the battle. As they approached, one of the Krell ships turned toward them. "They're targeting us," Tula reported from communications. "Shields up," Jack ordered. "Hold position." The Krell ship fired. Green energy struck the Tenacity's shields. The ship shook, but the shields held. Shields at 80%. Davis called out with surprise. The frequency modulation is working. Return fire, Jack commanded. Scatter shot mode. The Tenacity's weapons fired. Instead of the normal precise beams, they released bursts that spread out as they traveled. The Krell ship tried to dodge, but couldn't avoid all the energy. Its sleek hull was hit in multiple places. Their shields are weakening, Rax reported. They weren't expecting that attack pattern. The other Union ships noticed what was happening and moved closer to the Tenacity. Their captains appeared on the communication screen. "How are your shields holding?" one asked in amazement. "Human modifications," Jack explained quickly. "Change your shield frequencies randomly. It confuses their targeting systems." The battle continued as the Union ships formed around the Tenacity. Following Jack's lead, they adjusted their tactics. The Krell ships, expecting an easy victory, now faced unexpected resistance. One Krell ship broke away, heading directly for the colony. "They're making a run for the settlement," Rax warned. "Intercept course," Jack ordered. "Maximum speed." The Tenacity shot forward, moving faster than any Union ship should be able to. It cut across the Krell ship's path and opened fire with all weapons. The bridge shook violently as the Krell ship returned fire. Systems sparked, and warning alarms sounded. "Damage report," Jack called out. "Shields at 40%, Davis replied. "But all systems still functioning. Those reinforced bulkheads the humans installed are holding." "Stay with them," Jack ordered. "Don't let them reach the colony." The Tenacity stayed between the Krell ship and the colony, taking hit after hit but refusing to move. The other Union ships rallied around them, coordinating their attacks based on the Tenacity's example. Finally, after a fierce exchange, the Krell ships began to retreat. Their black hulls were now scared with damage, their superior technology neutralized by human ingenuity and Union determination. As the enemy disappeared into the darkness of space, cheers erupted across the communication channels. The colony was saved. 2 weeks later, the Tenacity returned to Central Station. This time, there was no crowd of skeptical engineers waiting. Instead, Admiral Vos himself stood with a group of high-ranking Union officials. "Captain Jack," the Admiral said, his voice carrying across the docking bay, "your ship and crew have performed beyond all expectations. The defense of Colony Omega has been called a turning point in our approach to ship design and combat tactics." Jack nodded respectfully. "Thank you, sir, but the credit belongs to my entire crew, especially our human engineers." "Indeed," the Admiral agreed, "which is why the Union Council has made a decision." The Admiral turned and gestured to a document displayed on a large screen behind him. "The Tenacity is officially being reclassified. No longer will it be a light cruiser. It is now the first ship of a new class, the Vanguard class." Murmurs of surprise and approval spread through the gathered crowd. "Furthermore," the Admiral continued, "we are forming a new division within Union Fleet Operations, the Human Innovation Department. Tom Miller will head this department, with the mission of implementing successful human modifications across the fleet." Tom stepped forward, looking shocked but pleased. "It's an honor, Admiral." "One more thing," Admiral Vos said, turning back to Jack. "The Council felt that a ship with such a distinguished record deserves a new name to match its new classification." He handed Jack a small device. When Jack activated it, holographic letters appeared in the air, spelling out a new name. "Captain Jack," the Admiral said formally, "I present to you the GUS Invincible, flagship of the Vanguard class." Jack looked at the new name, then at his crew who stood proudly behind him. From the discard to Invincible, a transformation no one could have imagined 6 months ago. "Thank you, Admiral," Jack said. "We'll continue to make the Union proud." As the ceremony ended and the crowd dispersed, Jack found Tom standing by a viewport, looking out at the stars. "Quite a change from when you first arrived," Jack said. Tom smiled. Humans have always been good at turning weaknesses into strengths, Captain. It's how we survived on Earth all those years. And now it's how you'll help the Union survive, Jack added. Together, they looked out at the stars, knowing that the story of the ship once called the Discard was just the beginning of a new chapter for humans in space.